U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Thursday spoke face-to-face with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov for the first time since Moscow's invasion of Ukraine 1 year ago.
I spoke briefly with Russia's Foreign Minister Lavrov on the margins of our G20 meeting today.
The two diplomats were both at a G20 meeting of foreign ministers in New Delhi. In remarks, Blinken said he urged Moscow to reverse its suspension of the New START nuclear treaty, emphasized that the U.S. would support Ukraine as it fought back against Russia's offensive, and called on Moscow to withdraw its forces.
Lastly, I spoke briefly with Russia's Foreign Minister Lavrov on the margins of our G20 meeting today. I urged Russia to reverse its irresponsible decision and return to implementing the New START treaty, which places verifiable limits on the nuclear arsenals of the United States and the Russian Federation. Mutual compliance is in the interest of both our countries. It's also what people around the world expect from us as nuclear powers. I told the Foreign Minister that no matter what else is happening in the world or in our relationship, the United States will always be ready to engage and act on strategic arms control, just as the United States and the Soviet Union did even at the height of the Cold War. We won't rest until we do. Finally, I told the Foreign Minister what I and so many others said last week at the United Nations and what so many G20 foreign ministers said today. End this war of aggression. Engage in meaningful diplomacy that can produce a just and durable peace. President Zelensky has put forward a 10-point plan for a just and durable peace. The United States stand ready to support Ukraine through diplomacy to end the war on this basis. President Putin, however, has demonstrated zero interest in engaging, saying there's nothing to even talk about unless and until Ukraine accepts, and I quote, the new territorial realities, while doubling down on his brutalization of Ukraine. Were China to engage in material, lethal support for Russia's aggression, or were to engage in the systematic evasion of sanctions to help Russia, that would be a serious problem for our countries. When I saw senior foreign policy official Wang Yi on the margins of the Munich meetings just a week or so ago, I raised with him our very real concern that, based on information we have, China is considering supplying lethal military assistance to Russia. That, of course, Prime Minister Modi is right that there are real challenges to the multilateral system, and those challenges, in many ways, are coming directly from Russia, which has been violating the very principles that lie at the heart of that system.
Blinken also said he pressed Lavrov to release American citizen Paul Whelan, who Russia accused of spying and sentenced to 16 years in prison. Washington says Whelan is not a spy, and the charges against him are a sham. Russian news agencies reported the Russian Foreign Ministry said Lavrov and Blinken spoke, quote, on the move for less than 10 minutes at the end of the closed-door session and did not engage in any negotiations. Relations between Washington and Moscow are at their worst level in decades. Blinken said that despite these tensions, the two great powers should be able to work together on matters of global security.
I also raised the wrongful detention of Paul Whelan, as I have on many previous occasions. The United States has put forward a serious proposal. Moscow should accept it. We're determined to bring Paul and every other American citizen who's unjustly detained around the world home. We won't rest until we do. Finally, I told the Foreign Minister what I and so many others said last week at the United Nations and what so many G20 foreign ministers said today. End this war of aggression. Engage in meaningful diplomacy that can produce a just and durable peace. President Zelensky has put forward a 10-point plan for a just and durable peace. The United States stand ready to support Ukraine through diplomacy to end the war on this basis. President Putin, however, has demonstrated zero interest in engaging, saying there's nothing to even talk about unless and until Ukraine accepts, and I quote, the new territorial realities, while doubling down on his brutalization of Ukraine. Independent of what Russia does, we showed here in Delhi what we will do: deliver results on the problems most affecting our people's lives. Our hosts are committed to doing this over the course of their G20 presidency. For that, and for their leadership and hospitality, I'd like to close by expressing my gratitude to India.
Inside the summit, the United States and European allies urged the group of 20 nations to keep up pressure on Moscow to end the conflict. Russia, which calls its actions a, quote, special military operation, hit back, accusing the West of turning work on the G20 agenda into a, quote, farce. Host nation India sought to highlight the economic impact of the war as well as issues such as climate change and poorer countries' debt. But New Delhi's efforts to bridge differences and produce a joint statement or a communique stumbled due to differences over the war. The meeting produced an outcome document instead. India has declined to publicly blame Russia for the war and has sought a diplomatic solution while boosting its purchases of Russian oil.